Have you ever felt like you're living a life shaped by others' expectations rather than your own desires? You might be the center of attention, having everything others dream of, yet deep inside, you feel empty. This is the story of Oliver Westwood, a young millionaire and the sole heir to the prestigious Westwood Hotel Group. Beneath the flawless exterior lies an inner struggle no one sees, until tragedy strikes and changes everything. At 30 years old, Oliver Westwood had become the epitome of success and sophistication. The Westwood Hotel Group, renowned for its opulence and elegance, stood as a symbol of wealth and prestige among the elite. As the sole heir, Oliver was portrayed by the media as a modern-day prince, handsome, wealthy, talented, and powerful. But few knew that his life operated like a well-oiled machine. Every action, word, and even emotion meticulously choreographed to maintain a perfect public image. When the cameras stopped flashing, Oliver often wondered whether his life truly belonged to him or if it was just a script written by the expectations of his family, the media, and society at large. In the eyes of the public, Cassandra Vaughn was the perfect partner for Oliver. A famous influencer, she possessed undeniable beauty, impeccable fashion sense, and a magnetic presence on social media. The two were dubbed the Golden Couple, a symbol of love and power in the upper echelons of society. Yet behind the polished facade lay a relationship devoid of genuine connection. Cassandra loved the image of Oliver, the multimillionaire heir, an ideal partner to elevate her career. She controlled every aspect of their life together, from their public appearances to their carefully curated social media posts. Every photo, every event they attended was calculated to generate maximum media buzz. And Oliver, driven by the need to please, never objected. Their wedding, scheduled to take place at a luxurious Westwood resort, was touted by the media as the wedding of the year. Every detail had been planned down to the finest millimeter, from Dutch imported flowers to a Michelin-starred menu, and a guest list filled with the most influential figures in high society. Oliver couldn't remember the last time he felt truly free. This wedding wasn't about love, it was an event, a performance everyone, except him, seemed to be eagerly anticipating. Sitting in his sleek sports car on the way to the venue, Oliver felt a crushing weight on his chest. His phone buzzed incessantly with messages from Cassandra. "Oliver, where are you? The paparazzi are swarming the gates. Guests are arriving. You can't be late." Cassandra's voice blared through the phone, not with concern but with the urgency of someone terrified the spectacle wouldn't go as planned. Oliver responded mechanically, "I'm on my way, don't worry." But in truth, he wasn't sure what he was doing. His heart felt constricted by an invisible anxiety, his mind swirling with unanswerable questions. Is this the life I want? Am I living true to myself? Just a moment of distraction. The car sped along the winding road, and Oliver didn't react in time as the tires slipped on the slick surface. The screech of tires, the jarring clash of metal, and suddenly his world was swallowed by darkness. When he was pulled from the wreckage, blood trickled down his forehead onto his face, and his breaths came weakly. Rescue workers quickly placed him in an ambulance, red and blue lights flashing in the night. Oliver was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. The doctors promptly induced a coma to protect his body from further damage. The Westwood Hotel chain, once bustling with preparations for a grand wedding, was now thrown into chaos. The media, instead of covering an extravagant ceremony, shifted to the story of a young millionaire fighting for his life. Outside the emergency room, Cassandra appeared. As beautiful as ever, she wore a flawless dress, her sorrowful expression seemingly plucked straight from a fashion magazine. But as she stepped through the hospital doors, her face quickly morphed into one of irritation and impatience. Cassandra wasn't there out of concern for Oliver. She was there for the cameras and her next social media post. This is where Oliver's story truly begins, not with outward perfection, but with a devastating fall that forces him to confront himself. Will he find something more meaningful in a life that once seemed so full, yet so hollow? And if you were Oliver, what path would you choose to take next? Stay tuned to uncover Oliver Westwood's journey of transformation and awakening, a story not just about survival, but about finding the true meaning of life. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to ensure you don't miss more inspirational stories. The camera flashes lit up continuously as Cassandra Vaughn stepped out of her sleek luxury car in front of the hospital. Accompanied by a personal assistant, she wore a minimalist yet elegant dress, as though she were heading to a red carpet event. Her hair was impeccably styled, and her makeup was flawlessly applied, revealing just enough fatigue to evoke sympathy. She walked into the hospital waiting area, her eyes scanning the lenses pointed at her. A faint but professional smile appeared on her lips. Reporters bombarded her with questions about Oliver's condition, but Cassandra simply shook her head gently, placing a hand over her chest as if to say, "I'm heartbroken. Please leave me be." Once the door to the hospital room closed behind her, Cassandra immediately removed her sunglasses, pulled out her phone, and checked her social media notifications. The likes on her previous post, "Pray for Oliver, my love," were climbing by the minute. She smiled faintly, satisfied, but her patience quickly wore thin. Approaching the hospital reception desk, she asked briskly about Oliver's condition. When informed that he was in a deep coma, she frowned, not out of worry, but because it meant the wedding had been indefinitely postponed. "What am I going to do to keep this narrative alive?" she wondered, her gaze drifting into the distance. In the days that followed, Cassandra maintained the image of a devoted fiancée. She made regular appearances at Oliver's bedside, only to take a few photos, place her hand on his, or gaze into the distance with a heartbroken expression. But each visit lasted no more than 10 minutes. Her posts, laden with hashtags like #TrueLove and #StayStrongOliver, spread rapidly, garnering millions of interactions. Yet behind the scenes, her concern wasn't for Oliver's recovery. It was for the narrative that had become her lifeline. In reality, Cassandra didn't spend much time at the hospital. She was busy with meetings with partners and pre-scheduled photo shoots. When there were no cameras around, she rarely mentioned Oliver and even complained to her friends, "This accident has completely ruined all my plans." Are you still following the story? Let us know which city in the world you are following the story from, so we know how far the story has spread. In stark contrast to Cassandra, Clara, a cleaning staff member at the hospital, quietly but consistently became a part of Oliver's life. A young woman from a poor, rural background, Clara had left her hometown in hopes of building a better life in the big city. Though her cleaning job was demanding, it was the only way she could support herself and save for her dream of becoming a nurse. While working in the area near Oliver's room, Clara learned about his accident from her colleagues. A young, wealthy man lying motionless in a hospital bed, surrounded by machines and people more concerned with his reputation than his health. It was an image that stirred a deep sense of sympathy in her. At first, Clara only passed by his room during her shifts, but one day she decided to leave a small flower on the table beside his bed, not because she expected anything in return, but simply as a reminder that someone cared. Clara didn't know if such small gestures could mean anything to someone in a coma, but she continued anyway. Every time she cleaned Oliver's room, she adjusted his blankets, added another flower, or whispered a few words of encouragement. "Hang in there, you're not alone." She began to tell him little stories about her life, her childhood in a small, poor town, her dream of becoming a nurse, and the struggles she faced living in the city. Clara's whispers weren't just meant to encourage Oliver, they also became a way for her to find solace in her own difficult life. Meanwhile, Cassandra's indifference became increasingly noticeable to the hospital staff. Some nurses gossiped that she only came to the hospital for her career, not for Oliver, but no one dared to confront her about it. From afar, Clara also noticed the stark difference between Cassandra's fleeting appearances and the emptiness she left behind. The more Clara witnessed Cassandra's coldness, the stronger her resolve grew to do something, not for herself, but for the young man fighting for his life on that hospital bed. One day after Cassandra left Oliver's room following another quick photo op, Clara entered to clean. She paused by his bedside, looking at him with a gaze full of compassion. Gently, she adjusted his blanket, placed another flower on the table, and whispered, "I don't know if you can hear me, but you have to keep fighting. There's so much more life ahead of you." In that moment, Clara felt an invisible connection between them. She had no idea that her quiet acts of kindness would become one of the most precious influences on Oliver in the days to come. Inside the silent hospital room, Only the steady beeping of monitors tracked Oliver Westwood's heartbeat and breathing. After weeks lost in the darkness of a coma, a small change began to take place. His fingers twitched slightly, and his long eyelashes fluttered as though he were trying to open his eyes and see the world once more. Oliver opened his eyes. The room was a stark white, and the soft light from a bedside lamp made him squint. He felt his body weighed down, as though he were submerged in water. The last memories before he lost consciousness, the sound of tires skidding, the blinding light of the crash, felt distant and unreachable. As his eyes adjusted to the light, he saw a blurry figure beside him. It wasn't the familiar face of Cassandra, the person he thought would be by his side in his time of need. Instead, it was a young woman with dark hair tied back neatly, a gentle face and eyes that radiated kindness. "You're awake," the woman said, her voice trembling slightly as though she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Oliver looked at her, his lips moving faintly, but he couldn't muster the strength to speak. "You don't know me," she added, offering a small smile, "but I've been here, hoping you'd wake up." In the days that followed, Oliver began to recover gradually. Though his body remained weak, his mind became clearer. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt himself drifting into hazy dreams, where a gentle voice told warm, comforting stories. It wasn't Cassandra's voice. This voice was entirely different, carrying a sincerity and tenderness that felt deeply genuine, as though it came from someone who truly cared. One day when the young woman, whom he now knew was named Clara, brought a small bouquet of flowers into the room, Oliver rasped out a question. "Was it you? Were you the one who spoke to me while I was in the coma?" Clara hesitated, her cheeks flushing slightly. "I didn't think you'd remember," she said with a shy smile. "I just thought that if I talked to you, maybe you wouldn't feel so alone." Oliver gazed at her in silence, an inexplicable warmth rising in his chest. During those long days of darkness, it turned out someone, a complete stranger, had been by his side, offering selfless, genuine care. The next day, Cassandra entered the room, as perfectly polished as ever. Her hair was sleek, her outfit impeccable, without a single crease. She immediately smiled, leaning down to plant a light kiss on his forehead. "Oliver, you don't know how worried I've been," she exclaimed, her voice sounding as though she were reciting lines from a carefully written script. Oliver forced a small smile. "Thank you for coming." Cassandra launched into a monologue about everything she had done during his coma, reassuring the media, posting prayers for him online, and sacrificing her valuable time to visit the hospital. But each word only made Oliver feel more distant from her. Then, pulling out her phone, she stood beside his bed and said, "We need to take a picture. Everyone online is waiting to see that you're doing better." Oliver reluctantly nodded, allowing her to snap a photo as he heard the sound of the camera shutter. But as he looked at Cassandra through the lens, he felt an unfamiliar emptiness. The woman who had once meant everything to him now seemed like a stranger. When Cassandra left, the hospital room returned to its quiet stillness. Not long after, Clara stepped in, carrying a fresh bouquet of flowers. She always moved gently, without fanfare, yet her presence seemed to warm the space. Oliver watched her, sensing the stark difference between her and Cassandra. Cassandra always brought glamour, but lacked sincerity. Clara was the opposite. She never sought attention, yet every small action she took came straight from her heart. "Why are you doing this for me?" Oliver asked, his voice low and serious. Clara paused, her eyes shimmering as she looked at him. "Because I thought, even though you don't know me, someone should be here for you. I know what loneliness feels like, and I didn't want you to go through that." Her words struck a chord in Oliver's heart. For the first time, he felt genuine care. Not for his fame, not for his image, but simply for who he was. Oliver began piecing together fragments of his memory. He recalled Cassandra's visits, brief and filled with photo ops, before she quickly left. He remembered the faint dreams of a soft voice telling stories full of hope. And now as he looked at Clara, he realized it was her who had been by his side during his darkest days. Thanks for following the story. Please comment Coca-Cola to let us know you are still following the story. One morning, Oliver decided to ask a nurse, "While I was in a coma, who visited me the most?" The nurse hesitated before replying, Cassandra did come, but not often. Most of the time it was Clara. She was always there, quietly taking care of you every day. Oliver remained silent, a strange mix of emotions washing over him, gratitude, sadness, and a touch of heartbreak. The woman he had once believed would always stand by him in his hardest times hadn't truly cared. Meanwhile, a stranger he had never known before had been the one to bring him hope and strength. Oliver Westwood leaned against the pillows in his hospital bed, his eyes gazing out the window. After learning the truth from the nurse, his mind was in turmoil. He had placed his trust, even his future, in Cassandra, only to discover that her presence in his life had been little more than a performance to maintain her public image. That afternoon, Cassandra arrived as radiant as ever. She carried a luxurious gift bag and walked into the room with her usual confidence. "Oliver, you're looking so much better. I knew it. You've always been strong," Cassandra exclaimed, placing the gift bag on the table and leaning in to kiss his forehead. But this time, Oliver didn't feel any warmth in her gesture. It felt hollow. He tried to remain calm, but he could no longer hold back. "Cassandra," he began, his voice steady and low, "were you really here for me? Or was it because it helped your career?" His question made Cassandra pause. She frowned but quickly regained her composure. "Oliver, why would you even ask that? Of course I was here for you. You're my fiancé, the man I love." But her eyes, subtly scanning his reaction, betrayed a flicker of unease. Oliver didn't let her continue making excuses. He looked directly into her eyes and spoke clearly. "You only came a few times, didn't you? And when you did, you spent more time taking photos than actually being with me. While I was lying here, between life and death, where were you?" Cassandra blinked, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Oliver, you don't understand the pressure I've been under," she retorted, her tone defensive. "I had to deal with the media, with all the rumors. I couldn't just sit here all the time. There were so many things I needed to handle." Her words hung in the air, sharp and unapologetic. "So you chose to let someone else take your place by my side?" Oliver asked, his voice growing firmer. "A stranger did what you, my fiancé, should have done. Don't you see anything wrong with that?" Cassandra hesitated, caught off guard. But instead of admitting fault, she turned to blame him. "Oliver, you're being overly sensitive. Everything I've done is for us, for our future. Don't you see? We've built a perfect image, and I couldn't let it fall apart because of this accident." Oliver took a deep breath, feeling his heart shatter. Yet at the same time, he also felt a strange sense of relief. He had always doubted their relationship, but now he was certain it was built on convenience and appearances, not genuine love. "Cassandra, I don't think there's anything left for us to say," he said, his voice calm but resolute. "I need someone who truly cares about me, not a PR partner." Cassandra's eyes widened in disbelief. She let out a sharp laugh, but her eyes betrayed her anger. "Oliver, you'll regret this. You'll never find anyone better than me. You're ruining everything." But Oliver simply shook his head. "If this is all we've built, then I don't want it anymore." Cassandra stormed out, her heels clicking loudly down the hallway. When the door shut behind her, the room fell unusually quiet. Yet for the first time in years, Oliver felt a strange, liberating sense of peace. What would you do if you were in Oliver's shoes? Would you have the strength to walk away from a superficial relationship to find something real? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In the days following their breakup, Oliver's thoughts kept drifting back to Clara. He remembered the warmth in her gaze, the small flowers she left by his bedside, and the gentle voice he had faintly heard during his coma. He realized that Clara wasn't just the person who had cared for him. She was also the one who had helped him see what truly mattered in life: sincerity, compassion, and unconditional love. One morning, as Clara entered the room with a fresh bouquet of flowers, Oliver called out to her. "Clara," he said, his eyes filled with gratitude, "thank you for always being here." Clara looked surprised but offered him a soft smile as she set the flowers on the table. "I was just doing what I thought was right," she replied gently. "You don't need to thank me." But Oliver shook his head. "No, I truly mean it. In my darkest days, you were there for me, even when you didn't have to be. I'll never forget that." From that moment, a new bond began to form between Oliver and Clara. At first, it was just short conversations, but gradually they started to share more with each other. Clara talked about her dream of becoming a nurse, while Oliver opened up about the pressures he had faced living a life dictated by others' expectations. They both realized they had found something unexpected in each other, a shared understanding, a connection that words couldn't fully capture. Oliver, once consumed by glamour and emptiness, now felt the true meaning of life for the first time. And Clara, a simple woman with a kind heart, discovered that even in the hardest circumstances, sincerity could bring about extraordinary things. Time seemed to pass more quickly as Oliver Westwood recovered. The long days spent in the hospital, wrestling with loneliness and existential questions, now felt like distant memories. But what remained indelible was the impact of Clara, the unassuming woman with a genuine heart, who had helped him find himself again. Oliver was no longer the hollow man Cassandra once knew. He began acting on the newfound values he had learned from Clara. Even from the hospital, he issued directives to the management team at Westwood Hotels, initiating significant reforms. One of these included allocating a portion of the profits to support underprivileged communities, creating vocational training programs, and providing opportunities for those less fortunate. During Oliver's recovery, Clara continued to stay by his side, offering warm conversations and sincere encouragement. Each time she entered the room with a small bouquet of flowers, Oliver's eyes lit up. To him, Clara wasn't just a companion, she was the person who had opened his eyes to a new path. As Oliver prepared to leave the hospital, he extended an offer to Clara to work at one of his Westwood hotels. He wanted to provide her with a stable position and a job that matched her dedication and skills. "Clara," Oliver said one quiet afternoon, "I'd like you to work for my hotel. With your dedication, I'm certain you'd do better than anyone else." Clara hesitated for a moment before smiling softly. "Thank you, but you know my dream is to become a nurse." Oliver nodded, his eyes gleaming with determination. "I know, and I want to help you achieve that. If needed, I'll support your education expenses. You don't need to worry about anything." Clara remained silent for a moment, feeling the sincerity in Oliver's words, but then she shook her head. "I'm grateful, but I want to achieve it on my own. I want to work hard and stand on my own 2 feet." Oliver respected her decision, but in his heart, he had already resolved to help her in his own way. After parting ways with Oliver, Cassandra continued to follow his every move. When news of his full recovery and his time spent with Clara began to surface, Cassandra couldn't accept the idea that a hospital cleaning worker, a woman she deemed unworthy, had won Oliver's heart. She began digging into Clara's background. Through her high society connections, Cassandra hired a private investigator to gather information about Clara, her past, her job, and even the financial struggles she faced while pursuing her nursing education. Every detail was ammunition for a plan to sabotage Clara. One afternoon, Clara was working at a Westwood hotel at Oliver's invitation when Cassandra unexpectedly appeared. With her flawless appearance and calculated smile, she approached Clara, her eyes scanning her from head to toe. "So you're Clara," Cassandra said, her voice sweet but laced with sharpness. "You've done quite well in capturing Oliver's attention. I must admit, it's a clever strategy." Clara froze for a moment, a wave of unease washing over her, but she maintained her composure, responding calmly, "I don't know what you're talking about. I've only done what I believe is right." Cassandra smirked, a cold laugh escaping her lips, and stepped closer. "Don't play innocent with me. Do you really think Oliver would seriously choose you? You're just a temporary distraction for him, a way to rebel after leaving me. Do you honestly believe someone like you, with nothing to her name, could survive in his world?" Cassandra's words hit like a punch to Clara's pride, but she refused to be shaken. "Oliver isn't the man you're describing. He's changed, and I believe in the choices he's made." Cassandra laughed mockingly. "Believe me, I know Oliver better than you ever will. He'll get tired of you, and when he does, you'll just be a stain in his story." If you were Clara, would you have had the courage to stand your ground against someone like Cassandra? We'd love to hear how you would handle such a challenge. But she didn't stop at verbal threats. Cassandra began executing her plan to sabotage Clara. She tried every means to contact Oliver, from sending apologetic messages to orchestrating coincidental meetings to grab his attention. The culmination of her schemes came one evening when she pretended to be drunk and approached Oliver at a charity event Clara wasn't attending. In a secluded corner of the party, Cassandra clung to Oliver, attempting to embrace him and whisper sweet words. When Clara arrived unexpectedly to pick Oliver up, she saw Cassandra leaning into him. Her eyes filled with pain and hurt as Cassandra, noticing Clara's presence, quickly played it off as if nothing unusual was happening. "Oh, Clara, you've come at the perfect time. Oliver and I were just reminiscing about old times," Cassandra said with a tone laced with implication. Clara looked at Oliver, doubt clouding her heart. Oliver, realizing the situation, quickly stepped forward. "Clara, it's not what you think. I didn't know Cassandra would be here." But despite trusting Oliver, Clara couldn't help but feel hurt by what she had seen. She turned and walked away, leaving Oliver and Cassandra in an awkward silence. In the days that followed, Clara avoided Oliver. She told herself that even though her love for him was genuine, it might not be enough to overcome the challenges posed by his luxurious and complicated world. Cassandra's words haunted her, making her question if she was truly worthy of Oliver. Oliver tried to explain, but Clara, feeling insecure and not wanting to become a burden to him, decided to step away. She resigned from her job at Westwood Hotels and focused on her nursing studies. When Oliver discovered Cassandra's hand in the events, he decided to confront her. He went to her home, his demeanor devoid of any tolerance. "Cassandra, you've done enough. I tried to maintain some respect between us, but you've crossed the line," he said firmly. Instead of showing remorse, Cassandra attempted to twist the situation in her favor. "I was just trying to protect you from making a mistake, Oliver. She doesn't belong in your world. You deserve someone better, someone like me." Oliver stared at her coldly, his voice unwavering. "You're wrong. My world isn't what you think it is anymore. I chose Clara not because she's perfect, but because she's genuine. Something you'll never understand." Cassandra froze, unable to respond, as Oliver walked away, leaving her to face her humiliating defeat. Oliver refused to give up on Clara. He did everything he could to see her again, even going to her school to set things straight. One afternoon, as Clara stepped out of the library, she saw Oliver waiting for her with a bouquet of flowers in hand. "Clara," he began, his voice full of sincerity, "I'm sorry for the pain you've endured. I know you feel like you don't belong in my world, but you're wrong. My world isn't about hotels or fame. My world is you." Tears streamed down Clara's face as she looked at him. The days they had spent apart had only made her feelings for him deeper than her insecurities. "I was just afraid that I'm not good enough for you," she whispered. Oliver took her hands, his gaze steady and resolute. "You are the best thing for me, Clara. Not because you're perfect, but because you're you." He knelt down and pulled out a small ring he had prepared long ago. "Please, let me prove that to you. Clara, will you marry me?" Clara nodded, tears of happiness streaming down her face. The two embraced, leaving behind Cassandra's lies and sabotage to begin a new chapter, one filled with love and hope. All misunderstandings between Oliver and Clara were resolved, and their love grew stronger than ever. Oliver dedicated his time and attention to proving that Clara was the most important person in his life. After Clara accepted his proposal, they began planning a wedding no one could ruin. Oliver and Clara decided on a simple ceremony in a small garden at one of the Westwood hotels. It wasn't the lavish, spotlight-filled event Oliver had once planned with Cassandra. Instead, it was an intimate and warm celebration, attended only by family, close friends, and those who truly loved them. Clara wore an elegant white dress, handmade by a seamstress from her hometown. Oliver, in a simple gray suit, couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked down the aisle. There were no camera flashes or intrusive media, only heartfelt blessings and smiles from the attendees. Their vows were simple but deeply meaningful. Oliver: "Clara, you didn't just save my life. You helped me find its true meaning. I promise to stand by you, love you, and respect you, not just today, but forever." Clara: "Oliver, you've shown me that true love isn't about what's on the outside, but the little things in our hearts. I promise to stand by you, face every challenge with you, and share all the joys of life together." As they exchanged rings and kissed under the soft sunlight, the crowd erupted into applause. A sense of peace and fulfillment spread throughout the garden. Just as the ceremony was nearing its end, Cassandra made an unexpected appearance, wearing a striking black dress. Her arrival caused a stir among the guests, but Oliver and Clara remained calm. Cassandra walked over, holding a glass of wine, and smiled faintly. "Congratulations, you two," she said. "I thought I'd come to offer my blessings after all. Oliver and I were once a part of each other's lives." Oliver looked at her with an emotionless expression and replied, "Thank you for coming, Cassandra. I hope you find happiness for yourself." Cassandra gave a thin smile before turning to Clara. "You're very lucky, Clara, but I wonder, how long can you hold on to what you've just gained?" Clara smiled back, her eyes full of confidence she hadn't had before. "I don't have to hold on to anything because love isn't something you possess. It's something you build together. And we've done that." Cassandra fell silent, unable to respond. She left, and it was the last time she ever entered their lives. After the wedding, Oliver and Clara began a new chapter together. Clara continued her nursing studies with Oliver's unwavering support. Meanwhile, Oliver focused on transforming the Westwood Hotel chain, turning it into a business that served not only the elite, but also gave back to the community. One of his first initiatives was establishing a scholarship fund to support disadvantaged students pursuing nursing. He named it Clara's Hope, to honor the woman who had inspired him to change his life. Despite their busy schedules, Oliver and Clara always made time for each other. They bought a small house in the suburbs, where Clara could tend to the garden she loved so much. Inside, they filled their home with photographs of cherished moments, from the rooftop proposal to their simple, heartfelt wedding. One evening, as they sat together in their backyard, Clara looked at Oliver, holding his hand. "You know," she said, "I still wonder sometimes how a girl like me ended up with someone like you." Oliver smiled, leaning down to kiss her hand. "Because we belong together, Clara, and I can't imagine my life without you." They sat there watching the vibrant sunset and feeling the peace they had built together. Years later, Oliver and Clara's names weren't just associated with the Westwood hotels, but also with the charitable projects they had spearheaded together. They supported underfunded hospitals, built schools, and created job opportunities for the underprivileged. Clara became an outstanding nurse, loved by her colleagues and patients alike. She continued to work where she felt she was needed most, carrying with her the compassion and resilience she had learned from life. On a sunny weekend morning, in the garden of their home, Clara tended to her beloved flowers while Oliver played with their two young children. Their laughter echoed in the warm air, blending with the sounds of the bustling garden. Oliver paused, watching Clara from a distance, and felt a happiness he couldn't put into words. He knew that since those dark days in the hospital, his life had changed forever, not because of wealth or fame, but because he had found a true companion, a love that had overcome every challenge. Together, they hadn't just built a life, they had brought hope and change to those around them, and that was what made their journey truly worthwhile. If you'd like to keep receiving meaningful stories that bring a smile to your face every day, hit subscribe now. And if there's anything you'd like us to share, don't hesitate to leave your thoughts in the comments below.